The state of Alaska deemed it necessary to have a railroad private enterprise could not afford to build. They built their own. Their railroad connects the gold fields of Fairbanks with the open water port of Seward. On the next to the last day of our trip to Alaska, we took that railroad. Not from Fairbanks to Seward, but from Denali to Anchorage. We began our journey near the park entrance at the resort known as the McKinley Chalet Resort, owned and operated by the Holland America and Princess Cruise Lines.
In the morning of the 25th, it's a Thursday, in June 2015, there's our Canyon Chalet, or Lodge, Canyon Lodge, pretty well hidden from here. And there's our train. We're going to depart in about 5 minutes, so I'd better hustle. We're at the depot.
The diesel engine and the tracks apparently belong to the Alaska Railroad, but the cars belong to the cruise lines. And I believe Carnival owns both Holland America and Princess.
All right, there's our crew.
Emergency exits on board. Down in the dining room, there are going to be
and we get slowly underway.
The first course of action that we're going to do is going to an adjoining car. If that is not an option, we also have those stairs that we used to get onto the train here today. That will be option number 2. Number 3 will be those windows downstairs in the dining room. And number 4, going to be these 4 windows up here in the dome. I'm going to kick those out. I'm going to jump 18 feet. You're all going to jump into my arms, and we're going to go have a party out in the wilderness.
The back of the chairs, you might have seen these black...
These introductory safety lectures and commercial announcements seem singularly out of place and inappropriate considering our dramatic surroundings. What follows when we leave the vicinity of Denali is not nearly so picturesque as what we have here.
Kind of tippy, so be aware of your drink. First of all, this is a bar that operates on a flag me down basis.
For example, we're not told what river this is.
In the air, catch my attention, call out my name, and I'll come to you and I'll take your order.
Our guide finally got around to identifying landmarks, but only by number, with references to a guidebook, and only for those on the left side of the train.
All right, for those of you asking about mile markers, we're passing one right now on the left-hand side of the train. We're passing mile marker 336.
The front of the car gave me a great view of the track ahead, but a wet bar spanned the entire window, and I was continually excusing myself for getting in the way of waitresses and bartenders. A better place for viewing and photography was on the platform.
All right, it's windy out there. Went on the platform and just about got blown apart, but it's a great place to see the engine working. But now we're having clouds overhead, but we'll keep track of things with this camera as we go.
As you go down farther south in latitude, around Colorado, you're looking at 11 or 12,000 feet, and that's where the tree line ends. And as we go down farther south, closer to the equator, sometimes even 14 to 15,000 feet is where these tree line ends. This has to do with the direct sunlight here. We may be getting 23 hours of sunlight right now, but that 23 hours of sunlight is not direct sunlight. It's not coming directly overhead. It's going around the horizon, giving you glancing rays. The rays that are actually coming down here are about 30% of the sun's energy is actually being harnessed because it's not coming directly overhead.
Okay, pretty quick. We're going to cross the Continental Divide here. 2,363 feet. And, if I catch it in time, we'll photograph it.
Shoot, I missed the sign. Well, there's nothing to see on this pass anyway.
This is is the Chulitna River that we're passing over here on the 3 o'clock side. Now if you notice, we've crossed over that continental divide at the 2,363 feet, and now all of these rivers are starting to flow south.
And now we have all the amenities. Coffee.
Oh, many in our group are going for lunch now. We're not really that hungry now.
Downstairs there are dining facilities, but Joanne and I did not eat on the train. What we did do is keep our eyes on the scenery. And one notable scene we recorded from the top of a railroad trestle, a 914-foot long trestle over Hurricane Creek.
This trestle is 296 feet tall. This is the largest trestle in the world. It's going to be 916 feet long, and we're going to be going along it at about 5 miles an hour, so you should have plenty of time to take pictures. You're going to have the Chulitna River that's going to be snaking around on the 3 o'clock side, and coming right underneath us from the 9 o'clock side, you're going to have Hurricane Creek, which is a snowmelt river, and that's going to come and meet with the glacially fed Chulitna River. You'll see the different color of the two streams. As we go over here, the Statue of Liberty was placed down at the base of this creek bed. We will be passing by it on the train here looking at her torch. As you can imagine, this is quite a feat of engineering over here and architecture. They called up the American Bridge Building Company, based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. They came up here, they started on either side with 2 sky trams, and they met in the middle. And they finished it in 6 months. Tremendous engineering. In fact, in the 1964 earthquake, the 9.2 earthquake that shook all of Alaska for 4.5 minutes, this was the only part of the rail that did not have any damage to it. That's how well and soundly constructed that trestle is. As I was walking up and down here, people were saying the #1 problem that they were having is that these trees were all in their way. So I called up ahead over here. And they're going to be, I just had someone knock down these trees here for you to take some pictures, so should be coming up here in about 15 seconds.
As we travel south, we get out of the mountain scenery and enter flatter landscape surrounding this Sitna River, a broad valley.
Sistina River here is what they call a braided river.
Our next point of interest was the town of Talkeetna, where the philandering President Warren G. Harding and his dominating wife Florence, called the Duchess, spent the night. The President and the First Lady having come to Alaska to drive the Golden Spike in the Alaska Railroad.
So the significance about Talkeetna over here, President Warren Harding came up here for the ceremonial end of the Alaska Railroad. He came up here to put that golden spike in. So as he came up here, if any of you folks are not familiar with Warren Harding's history, he did like to have a drink from time to time. So when he went to go ahead and put that golden spike in, he did go ahead and take 3 times before he made contact with that spike as he was swinging it. And then when he came up here, he stayed in that Fairview Inn over there. Now a week after he left here, he actually passed away. The official cause of death was a heart attack. There was some discrepancy about that. They thought that his wife may have poisoned him. Why did his wife poison him? When he came up here to do the ceremonial spike, he came up here with his wife and he came up here with his mistress. So as you can imagine, they caused some tension in the household. And in the top of that building at the Fairview Inn, that's where they stayed, there was 2 rooms. The one room has a plaque on it. It says, President Warren G. Harding stayed here. And then down the hall, there's another plaque that says, or President Warren G. Harding stayed here. They really weren't quite sure which room he spent that particular night in. At Talkeetna here, this is going to be a jumping off point for everybody that tries to climb Mount McKinley.
Our sister train.
You gotta get the way.
We'll pass on our left here. Those are the other Holland America people. Everybody's waving.
We're making our good weather conditions.
Princess people.
Oh yeah, they're giving this, yeah.
And we're off again. we got down to the vicinity of Wasilla, there was much conversation about Sarah Palin. We learned that she doesn't live there now, but that she was raised there. And of course, she was mayor at one time.
This is one of the few places they will check you for weapons. If you don't have one, they're going to issue you one at the door to give you a fighting chance once you get inside there. They sell more duct tape here than any place else in the world. 325 miles of duct tape gets sold from the Walmart here every year. Now they use, why? Because they use it for everything. They fix their planes, they fix their trains, they fix their automobiles with it. They also have a duct tape ball every year. They have gowns that they're made out of this duct tape. They have tuxedos that they make out of these duct tape, and then they go and they dance the night away. They try to find stuff to do here in the winter. It's a rough time.
And as we passed Wasilla, began to curve around toward Anchorage, we began to see more mountain scenery, these coastal mountains that surround Anchorage. Here's Anchorage, and here's where we say goodbye to our guide.
It's awesome who's here today. I hope that the rest of your journey down through Anchorage, and hopefully next thing I heard a bunch of you are going down to Seward as well. I hope you enjoy the rest of your vacation.
And here's
Anchorage. Anchorage from the West Mark.
And the next morning,
Well, this puts a bracket on our trip to Alaska. We're now in Anchorage, and today we take a flight for Seattle, and that ends it.
In my mind, this has to be one of the most marvelous trips we've taken. I mean, every single day was something new. A big adventure, beautiful weather, beautiful time, nice people.